All right, my name is Sam Yoon. I'm the Executive Director of Council of Korean Americans, and I'm going to tell you a story. In 2005, I ran for Boston City Council. I was a newcomer, total unknown, and but by running, I became the first Asian American ever to run for office in Boston's history. And I was determined to do a good job. I wanted to make a really good impression, even if I wasn't going to win. And it so happens one of the big traditions in Boston around campaign season is to march in parades. Every neighborhood has a parade. I mean, this is a really old tradition. Parades happen throughout the year. But the first parade of the season, and probably the most important, is the St. Patrick's Day Parade. And the St. Patrick's Day Parade is I think one of the largest St. Patrick's Day parades in the country, and but importantly, it marches through a very important neighborhood in Boston politics, which is South Boston, i.e. Southie. It's a really Irish neighborhood, really strong roots in Boston politics and the Irish Catholic culture. It's changing now, but it's still very important, and they really hold on to tradition. And I was really determined to make a really good impression on the people of South Boston because they don't know me. My last name is Yoon. It's clearly not Irish. I don't look Irish at all. And but I wanted folks there to know that I wanted to represent them on the Boston City Council. I knew I was going to get some interesting attention because my parade volunteers were, they're a motley crew of like African American and South Asian and Chinese and white and it's kind of a mix. And not really, we didn't fit the demographics of South Boston in that sense. But I remember being determined to shake as many hands as possible, because that's what an Irish politician does. You glad hand people, go right up to them, and make it personal. So I didn't just walk that parade; I jogged it. Because I wanted to go from side to side to side and march and shake people's hands on both sides of the street. Give everyone equal opportunity to get to know me, because I was Sam Yoon, and I'm running for Boston City Council, and I was really glad to meet you. And it was a fun exercise. People are drinking, doesn't matter, it's 10 a.m., but people are like having a really good time, and they weren't expecting it. I felt like I was kind of playing with their expectations a little bit, and so I was, huffing and puffing and shaking as many hands as possible. People were taking pictures of me because they just thought it was hilarious. This guy named Yoon is actually running for city council and wants to kind of, get to know people, and so doing pretty well. It's a long parade. It's kind of a marathon of parades in Southie. But I was climbing up this one hill, and I noticed at the top of this hill was a veteran. There was a family, because families come out on the sidewalk and they watch the parade all day. But in the center of this one family was a highly decorated veteran in uniform who looked like he was 70s or 80s. I mean, clearly the patriarch of the family. So in a smart way, I went right up to him, and I was going to shake his hand and show respect. And so I did that, and his family was all surrounding him, my parade volunteers behind me, and I went right up to him, and I said, "I'm Sam Yoon, I'm running for Boston City Council." And what he said was, he didn't even shake my hand, he pulled back and he said, "Get out of here, I still remember Pearl Harbor." I was shocked. I could not believe what I had just heard on many different levels, because I'm not Japanese, but not just that, I'm an American, and but not just that, as a Korean American, the United States liberated my mother country from Japan And it, so on many different levels, I was very much taken aback. And I mean, later I began to think, this is, this is a very, this points something out about our country. 10 years ago, this was 10 years ago, but it's still something that is happening now. These divisions and kind of misunderstandings about each other, but it didn't deter me. I really wanted to, make sure that people thought that I didn't think that they were racist, and so I was hoping that they would look at me and understand, who I was for what I was. And the saving grace to this whole incident is that his family was mortified. And they started swearing at the old man and saying, "Get the bleep and bleep off this, get off the," pushing him off the curb and just get away from him. And they were so embarrassed for me, and they said, "We are so sorry, Mr. Yoon. This is not, the way things should be." And that was the little bit of hope that I carried with me throughout that campaign. That even though those attitudes are still around, that there are people, close to those folks who understand, what's right and what's wrong, and were willing to, reach a hand out to me and say, welcome.